Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel. I am the Acting Policy Manager at the Good Food Institute. It's my pleasure to meet you and to share about how alternative protein is paving the way for sustainability and its growth in Asia. My presentation consists of four main sections: the introduction to GFI, what are alternative proteins, regulatory development, and an overview of the APAC alternative protein sector. Sure, so let me introduce a little bit of GFI. So we are a global network of non-profit think tanks developing the roadmap for a more sustainable, secure, and just protein supply. We work along three programmatic pillars: sci-tech, corporate engagement, and policy. As a non-profit, we are fully funded by philanthropy. So on this slide, you'll see three pictures, and that's what we are focusing on at GFI, the three types of alternative protein: plant-based, cultivated, and fermentation. So GFI was, in the next slide, we'll see a chart, and GFI was founded 6 years ago to address the critical question of how do we feed nearly 10 billion people by 2050. This graph shows the historical projected demand for meat and seafood in Asia between 1961 and 2050. Between today and 2050, there is an expected regional increase of 55% demand for meat. The need for protein is higher than ever, adding on the compounding pressures of climate change and environmental degradation to existing food systems. We need to innovate, and food systems need to evolve. So on the next slide, industrial animal agriculture alone is inherently inefficient and incapable of meeting this surging demand for proteins. It is a leading contributor to crucial environmental problems like land degradation, water scarcity, and is responsible for up to 20% of all greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the entire global transport sector. The inefficiency of conventional meat production stems from the fact that it takes at least 9 calories of crops fed to a chicken to get just 1 calorie back in the form of meat. This conversion rate for pigs and cows is even worse. Industrial animal agriculture also poses public health hazards. Overuse of antibiotics in meat production risks accelerating the development of antimicrobial resistant superbugs, which are projected to cause 10 million deaths annually by 2015. So the next slide is a graphical representation of the inefficiency of livestock production, whereby you need 9 calories of crops to feed to a chicken to get just 1 calorie back, and 40 calories for cows to get 1 calorie back, which is a mere 3% conversion rate, meaning we lose between 87 to 97% of the food recycled through animals. Next slide. Alternative proteins are not being funded in line with their climate potential. Food and agriculture makes up between a quarter and a third of global GHG greenhouse gas emissions, but the sector received about 3% of global public and private climate financing in 2020. Livestock emissions make up about 14.5% of global greenhouse gas, and alternative proteins significantly reduce this emission, but they received just 0.5% of climate financing in 2020. Next, I will talk about what are alternative proteins. So we will cover alternative proteins under 3 production types. So maybe you can just jump to the slides with the 3 pictures and the one with the plant-based.
Samuel, we can see the slides.
Yeah, sure. So now I'll just talk about plant-based food. So let's start off with plant-based meat. There are over 1,000 startups within this segment, and most leading food and meat companies have launched or acquired plant-based brands as part of their portfolio offering. As seen on this slide, plant-based meat, eggs, and dairies are produced directly from plants like animal products. They comprise of proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water, and these products are tasting and cooking more and more like conventional meat. On the next slide, it shows that most plant proteins are globular, while most animal meat proteins are fibrous. The key aspect of plant-based meat development is making globular protein act like fibrous protein. This can be achieved through the application of heat and pressure. So on cultivated meat, in contrast to plant-based meat, cultivated meat is genuine animal meat that is cultivated directly from animal cells rather than raising livestock. Meat cultivation facilitates the same biological process that happens inside an animal. So the next slide shows that the goal of cultivated meat is to recreate three main components of animal muscle tissues, muscle fibers, connective tissues, and fat tissues. By mimicking this complex structure, its aim is to replicate the texture, flavor, and nutritional profile of conventional meat to offer an authentic meat experience while providing a sustainable and ethical alternative to traditional meat production. Fermentation-derived protein, this leads me to the third and fastest growing pillar. Fermentation is an enabling technology for alternative protein industry that allows production of standalone protein sources or functional ingredients. Microorganisms such as fungi and bacteria can be programmed to express specific proteins or fats, or their entire protein biomass can be harvested. So in this slide, it shows the three different types of fermentation. So we are familiar with traditional fermentation, where the process used to make yogurt, cheese, and wine, where microorganisms are used to alter the taste and texture of the ingredients. Whereas for biomass fermentation, the fast-growing and high-protein content microorganisms are the primary ingredients themselves, so we consume the fungi and bacteria ourselves. Unlike traditional fermentation, the using of the intact live microorganisms, precision fermentation uses genetically engineered microbes host to produce specific functional ingredients. These microbes designed to function as cell factories, producing proteins such as dairy proteins or egg protein. This method allows the creation of ingredients and enhanced sensory characteristics and functional attributes for plant-based or cultivated meat products. So there's a lot of science going on, and that's just a brief introduction of alternative proteins. So now we go through a little bit of regulatory development in this new space. Because they are new and novel products, it makes sense for governments to impose new legislations about it. So in the last 3 years, regulators in Asia has taken great strides in the alternative protein space. We see government being increasingly active in developing guidelines, having open discussions, setting up supportive policy, and Singapore is a global leader in regulation and has the most advanced novel food framework in the world. And going on to the next slide, the cultivated meat regulatory landscape is progressing globally and in APAC. For Singapore itself, there's many firsts. This year, it has approved the sales of cultivated quail and also allowed the retail sales of cultivated meat, which means you can get it off the shelf of a supermarket. In EU, it has approved several novel plant-based and fermentation-derived ingredients, but not cultivated meat. EFSA received their first application in July this year, and we are really looking forward to the developments here. The highlight of the regulatory development will be Korea, because they are setting up a regulatory-free zone to accelerate development and commercialization, where certain exemptions will be provided for novel food companies. So this is the first in the world where we can see huge interest and development in. And at the international level at Codex, it is also gaining traction, where guidelines on novel food and new production systems are being developed. The last segment I will go through is on the overview of APAC alternative protein sector. So the state of APAC alternative protein sector from 2021 to 2022, we see a 207% increase in public funding. We mix up 15% of the global public funding, and a 45% increase for public funding, which means it makes up 19% of the global private funding. To date, we have over 400 sectors, research publications, 20 sector-dedicated shared facilities, 200 startups, and 15 plant-based brands launched by major incumbents. So the sector has gained high-level policy endorsements from the Prime Minister of Japan, President of China, and Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore, and that really shows the focus and the support behind in Asia. Next, I'll talk about global governments that have stepped up in the year 2022. All-time government funding has likely surpassed $1 billion in USD as of 2022, and APAC public funding in the single year of 2022 was 37% higher than all-time invested capital up to 2021. All-time public investment in APAC is estimated at $162 million as of 2022, about 60% of all-time global public funding. Next slide will be on the all-time private investment, which has surpassed $1 billion. In 2022 itself, private investment in APAC increased by 45% compared to previous years and hit $556 million USD. Investment is significantly down in APAC in the Q1 and Q2 of 2023, mirroring the drop in global venture funding. So investment has been diversifying across regions. Next slide. In 2010 to 2021, 73% of sector investment was in North America and only 6% was in APAC. But in 2022, APAC share increased to 19%, and as of Q2 2023, APAC has attracted 9% of 2023 investment. Next slide. APAC countries are becoming investment hotspots, and plant-based contributes to the bulk of the investment for all of these countries. For Korea, cultivated meat takes a significant 38% of the total investment, and for fermentation, Australia and New Zealand has $90 million worth of investment that is far ahead of other investment for fermentation in the region. Next slide. APAC is home to over 200 startups, the most in plant-based, followed by cultivated, biomass fermentation, precision fermentation. An interesting thing to note here is on Thailand, and they have the second largest number of startups in precision fermentation and 11% of the startups for plant-based. Next slide. Meat companies in the region also see the opportunities in this space and are embracing it. There are now about 15 plant-based meat brands launched by regional food companies. Next slide. And powerful growth. So wrapping this up, how does the future look for alternative protein? There are powerful drivers in place with the cost of novel technologies falling and increasing governmental support. The market opportunities also resonate. In a survey GFI conducted in 2023, half of the participants have not tried plant-based meat, and over 3/4 want to try or to eat more. And next slide. So significant progress needs to be made. For alternative protein to reach its true potential, costs still have to drop considerably to allow mass market affordability. More attention and public funding is needed to decarbonize our food system through alternative proteins, and product quality must improve to be more affordable, more nutritious, and taste better. And the other slide on the GFI resource. So there's a lot of things that I have shared earlier, and also this short presentation have tons of information, and you can find more through our GFI resources such as the State of Industry Report or our ASAP database that explore commercial white space, research gaps, and investment priorities. So thank you for your time. I hope this presentation is insightful and you learn more about alternative protein and its important role in our food system and the opportunity that lies ahead. Thank you so much for your time.